see that coming across the horizon. It is very eerie. So yeah, those happen quite a bit. Like you said, we get them here. If we had a desert climate and not vegetation, we'd probably see dust storms as well like that. Sometimes you do see them in the spring when the fields are freshly plowed or we have dry conditions, but more often than not, we don't see that. Before we end today, we wanted to talk about the Katrina 20th anniversary. And yesterday we talked about where we were at this point with Katrina. And I wanted to bring up the track today because this was the 5 o'clock advisory 20 years ago this evening. There was a dramatic shift in the track at this point, and Tim and I were kind of texting back and forth about this. I had actually forgotten a little bit about how this shift occurred, but there was a 150 nautical mile shift in the track between forecast cones. And this happened on the Friday going into the weekend before Katrina hit. We got Helene and Katrina on my mind. Katrina was hit on a Monday morning. This thankfully happened on Friday, Tim, which I think was key because going into the weekend, people got this information that the central Gulf Coast was going to be threatened. But this was a dramatic shift at the time. And part of the reason this happened, there was a big reformation of the center from about Miami down to Key West. Like the next advisory, the center had reformed really far southwest. And this dramatic shift, I think, was when everybody in New Orleans and the central Gulf Coast kind of had that like, uh-oh, this is going to be the big one kind of mentality.
And Brad, just you mentioned this yesterday, but the cone used to be bigger back then.
Yeah, it was
because
huge.
The forecast accuracy is not quite as big as it is now. So now it's a smaller cone nowadays. But this is a big one. It was a big shift too. And just noticing, it doesn't appear that it was forecast to be a major hurricane at this stage either.
Yeah, it was 100-mile-an-hour winds. But I read the discussion from this time, and I'm just going to pull up the discussion because I want to read this last part of the discussion, which, by the way, for anybody out here who doesn't read the discussions, there's a lot of good information in these that tells you a lot. At the end of this discussion, Tim, so I'm just going to read this part here. So it talks about why the westward scenario happened. After 24 hours, the models are in general agreement of this trough coming down, moving towards the central Gulf Coast. The models had shifted significantly westward and are in better agreement. The result is an official forecast being shifted 150 nautical miles west. But here's the thing. Katrina is expected to be moving over the Gulf loop current after 36 hours, which combined with decreasing wind shear could allow the hurricane to reach Category 4 strength before landfall. And one of the models, it says, has it as a Category 5. So there was already hints in the discussion that, this thing could become a monster. So if you ever get a chance, look at these discussions. There's good information in there. That's all the time we have for today, Tim. We're going to be talking more about this tomorrow and obviously the end of the week. But stay tuned for more Impact News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus. We'll be together for the next 2 hours here talking about all of the breaking news that we're following, live feeds, and of course, your local, national, and global headlines. We also have some really good in-depth conversations coming up here over the next couple of hours. So buckle up, folks. We've got a lot to share with you. We're going to start off with a conversation that is continuing here as we started to dig into a pet shop here in the Charlotte area that has been shut down. We reported several days back that Happy Puppy Universe in North Charlotte had its license revoked by the state after multiple violations, including puppies that died in this shop's care. The fact that, according to authorities, this shop was also selling sick dogs to folks without disclosing any sort of medical conditions. And we later found out from a local rescue, which took on some of these dogs after the shop closed, that some of these dogs reportedly came from puppy mills. So really beckoning the question here of what is going on with these puppy mills? How big of an issue is this? And what do folks need to know if this is something that they stand against and want to put a stop to these puppy mills? We've got John Goodwin, who's joining us with Humane World for Animals. John, you are leading up efforts to essentially put a stop to puppy mills nationwide. We thank you so much for joining us here on Live Impact News.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's a topic that is sitting not great with a lot of folks in our community. Gotten a lot of response on social media following, the headlines that we just discussed with this pet shop. And I think folks might not know how prevalent puppy mills are perhaps in the United States and where some of these dogs might end up. It doesn't always look like a puppy mill, but you might have shops that are taking them in, seemingly so. This was a case we had puppies that were reportedly from Missouri.
Yeah, so the vast majority of puppies sold in pet stores do come from puppy mills, and Missouri is the #1 puppy mill state in the nation. That's where the most are. And the Midwest and all the states around Missouri have a lot of puppy mills as well. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't any in North Carolina. There are plenty in North Carolina as well. But the epicenter for the puppy mill industry is in the Midwest. Now, as far as the puppy stores go, and that's been the big controversy in North Carolina, as a rule of thumb, high volume pet breeders are going to rely on high volume pet retailers are going to rely on high volume pet breeders to keep those glass display cases filled at all times. No pet store owner wants to have a Rolodex with 400 responsible breeders calling through, seeing who has a litter available now. No, they want to go to someone that has 50 or 60 breeding dogs of all different types who can keep those glass display cases filled all the time. So that's why the pet stores are usually selling puppy mill puppies.
Now, I mean, for folks who aren't familiar with the conditions inside these puppy mills, can you speak to, what you and your team have seen or gotten reports of as far as what is it like for dogs inside these facilities?
So I think the best way to answer that is to describe what the USDA standards for USDA licensed so-called commercial breeding kennels look like. Because when you go into one of these puppy stores, they will use the fact that the breeders are USDA licensed as part of their sales pitch. But what they're not telling people is that the USDA regulations allow for puppy mills to keep dogs in cages that are only 6 inches longer than their body. I mean, we're talking about dogs, maybe a Yorkshire Terrier kept in a cage the size of a dishwasher. They allow these breeders to keep dogs in wire cages. Their paws may never touch a blade of grass. The sun may never touch the back of the dog. They allow them to breed them every heat cycle until their bodies wear out, and they can even legally kill the dogs when they're no longer productive breeders. And those are the conditions that are allowed by USDA. There are a lot of these facilities that fall below those bare minimum survival standards. So basically, I would say that puppy mills are kind of like puppy factory farms.
What are you and your team doing to try to, tackle this from a policy perspective? Because as you pointed out, in some of these cases, they're within the regulations. Obviously, you mentioned not all the cases, but in some of the cases, they are within, the legal ramifications. But you seemingly want to change that. I mean, that's what I'm hearing kind of more or less from you.
Yeah. So for years, we worked on trying to get the standards of care for the dogs in puppy mills improved. We did a rulemaking petition to the USDA urging them to improve the standards of care for the dogs. We did bills in Congress. We went state by state. But here's the fundamental problem. The states with the most puppy mills are states that have large agricultural economies. And in those states, big agribusiness is disproportionately powerful. And there are people in big ag that have blocked laws that would protect dogs in puppy mills because they're afraid that if a dog in a puppy mill is given higher standards of care, then heaven forbid, next thing you know, we'll have to improve standards of care for farm animals. And they just don't want to go down that road. So we decided, okay, you know what? If we have to push a boulder up a hill to get an extra square inch of space for a dog in a puppy mill in Arkansas, probably not worth our time, but instead they've got to sell these dogs somewhere. So we've been working to stop the sale of puppies in pet stores, and we've gotten 8 states and over 500 localities to ban the sale of puppies in pet stores just during the last 10 years. And that has led to a sharp reduction in the number of dogs kept in these puppy mills.
Now, you mentioned earlier the fact that while these puppies in this specific case that I just referenced came from Missouri, that doesn't mean that there aren't puppy mills in North Carolina. I'm just curious if you're aware of either mills in either of the Carolinas. I ask that because here in Charlotte, we're right on the state line. We kind of basically are right near both of the Carolinas, if you will, so we take an interest in policies and decision-making that happens in both states. And if you're aware or unaware of puppy mills, what are the general animal welfare rules in the Carolinas, and where do you think they might rank in comparison to other states?
Well, there are puppy mills in North Carolina, and there have been a lot that have been shut down by law enforcement because the conditions dropped below what is allowed under the state's animal cruelty statutes. But the state animal cruelty law is not a substitute for a good puppy mill law, and I'll explain why. To enforce a criminal statute like an animal cruelty law, a sheriff or a police department needs to have probable cause that some sort of cruelty is happening on a property. Otherwise, they cannot enter the property to see for themselves what's going on. And so we push for there to be laws that regulate puppy mills and set standards of care for the dogs so that the people who have one of these commercial dog breeding facilities has to acquire a license, which then gives the State Department of Agriculture or some other regulatory agency the permission to come in and inspect to make sure that the standards are where they should be. North Carolina doesn't have anything like that on the books, neither does South Carolina. So that's been a bit of a problem. Back when, my gosh, it's been about 15 years, there was a big push to try to get a good, strong law tackling the puppy mill problem passed in North Carolina, but unfortunately, it didn't get anywhere in the state legislature.
I mean, I've covered, multiple animal welfare topics here in the Carolinas. We've done a lot of reporting here at WCNC Charlotte on dog fighting and animal cruelty cases, and we kind of hear similar, I guess, takes when it comes to trying to get policy through regarding, some of these important issues for animal advocates. Do you think that, I mean, you kind of alluded to this before, here in the Carolinas, it is a similar situation of if there is a strong agricultural, economy, tied in with ag, that there might be a lot of folks who are lobbying against these types of policies here in the Carolinas?
There are, and believe it or not, one of the biggest opponents of stronger laws to tackle the puppy mill problem is actually the AKC, the American Kennel Club, who has a headquarters in North Carolina. They have been a major obstacle to getting better protections enacted for dogs. And that surprises a lot of people. And they ask, well, why? Why would the AKC not want to do anything about puppy mills? Well, think about it. The AKC is a dog registry. Who's going to provide more puppies to be registered? Granny, the responsible breeder who has 1 litter of pugs a year? or the puppy mill that's producing 1,000 puppies a year. Well, of course, that massive operation is going to be getting a lot more puppies registered, so they have more influence on the direction that some organizations take who frankly should know better and frankly should be helping us get protections in place for the dogs.
Where do you go from here? And I guess in the sense of, with your efforts to try to change policy, what would you say to folks who are watching here at home about perhaps how they could make their voices heard, however they feel about the topic, whether they're, for or against changes? How would you recommend that they go about making sure that their voices are heard?
Well, if they're against changes that would help the dogs, I think the best thing they can do is just stay home and not say anything. I'm half joking. Now, I think that this is something where the vast majority of people believe that something has to change, something has to give. And I encourage people to study the issue. At humaneworld.org/puppy mills, you can learn a lot about the issue. There is a book written by an author named Rory Kress that is called The Doggy in the Window. I recommend that book for anyone who really wants to master the puppy mill issue. And then from there, use your voice, use your social media platform, use any connection you have to raise awareness and help people who are looking for a new dog to join their family, help them find a good, humane, responsible alternative to a retail sales outlet that sells puppy mills. That might be helping them find the perfect animal with a shelter or a rescue. Or if they have their heart set on an 8-week-old purebred puppy of some type, helping them find a responsible breeder who's proud to introduce you to the mother dog and show you where the mother dog lives. Puppy mills won't do that. So there are a lot of things people can do. And also, if you walk into a store, a puppy store, and you see that that they've got those big rows of puppies and all that, walk out the door. That is one of the worst places that you can get a puppy from, both because you're going to be supporting a puppy mill most likely, and also because many of those puppies are sick, and families who purchase puppies in those stores often end up with large veterinary bills immediately.
Why is this such an important topic to you? Why have you, I guess, made this your niche, your calling to work on this specific issue?
I think anybody that's ever had a dog and really, had a good relationship with their dog knows of the undying loyalty and just the pure love that a dog gives you. And then for us to turn around and put dogs in tiny cages and treat them like breeding machines and treat them like they're just agriculture commodities to pop out more puppies to sell, that's a betrayal. And so that bothers me. And I have seen puppy mills, I've been to puppy mills, and I've seen dogs. I remember one, it was actually in North Carolina that we went into with some law enforcement. And they had these little teacup poodles, these little mini poodles. And they were in these tiny little cages. And there was nothing that they could do to burn off their energy. So they would just spin in circles over and over and over again. They just become neurotic from the confinement. And there was so much animal waste that had accumulated in that building that it was burning my eyes and lungs. And I had to leave the building every 5 minutes to get fresh air while our rescue team helped the sheriff's department remove some of the dogs. And I can't forget that. There's so much suffering there, but this is something that we can fix. This is an issue where there are solutions and there's bipartisan support for ending puppy mills. We've got Republicans and Democrats, a lot of whom agree on this. So I feel like it's a good place to put my energy because I think we can prevail.
I just think about, the picture that you painted just now, and it sounds horrific. And I've not, made this a secret. I've shared this every time we talk about animal welfare stories, but I volunteer at our local animal shelter, and we've seen, and granted, we don't know that these are puppy mill dogs. They could be backyard breeders, but we've seen the mother dogs get brought in, at the end of their childbearing years, if you will, after being bred over and over and over, and just essentially of no more use to their owner and just dumped like they're garbage.
Yeah, it's interesting because when people talk about puppy mills, they usually think of the puppy. And why wouldn't they? I mean, puppy mills has the word puppy in it. But the puppy at least gets to leave the puppy mill after 8 weeks. It's the mother dog, it's the father dogs. They're the ones who will spend, 6, 7, 8 years in those cages just getting bred over and over again. And you mentioned the relinquished breeding dogs that come into some of the shelters. I imagine a lot of them were pretty shut down and required a lot of TLC to kind of get them to a place where they were, ready to go into a good home. I do encourage people to adopt those dogs and give them a second life, but you've got to be patient with them because some of these dogs have never walked on stairs or gone through door frames. And so you'll put them in a house and it's like a whole new experience to them. And you got to be patient because some of them will shut down and it takes a little while for them to get adjusted.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a road to recover, if you will, from a situation like that when they are able to make it out of that situation. John, is there anything else you'd like to leave our viewers with before we wrap things up here?
I know that there are people who've gone into the puppy stores and gotten a puppy, didn't know better, and many times they ended up paying a price because they were sold a sick puppy, and they ended up with a terrible, terrible experience. And if that's you, I would ask if you would consider going to humaneworld.org/puppy complaint and letting us know about it.
That's an interesting resource to know about for sure. I mean, just talking about the headline that we mentioned here out of our area, we know of folks, who've basically come forward and said that they had a puppy pass away from this particular pet shop right after they basically purchased that puppy. John Goodwin, thank you so much for joining us once again with Humane World for Animals. And as you mentioned, John, folks can learn more about those advocacy efforts over on your website, Humane World for Animals. Discussion certainly to be continued, of course. And we'll just remind folks here at home watching on Live Impact News that our role in investigating in this story is not done. Our team does continue to look into paper trails and documentation and everything that is coming out of this ongoing saga, because as we've mentioned with some of our more recent reporting, apparently the owner of this particular pet shop in Charlotte also owns a shop in Nashville, Tennessee, also had a shop shut down in the Clearwater, Florida area. So certainly many more threads to pull on. All right, with that, we want to turn to some breaking news we're following right now out of the Northeast. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. LA. We've got live images right now at a scene that we're seeing, Vermont Knolls area of South Los Angeles. According to police there and fire, there are one of 5 people shot has now passed away. So multiple people injured in this shooting. One person now dead. This started around 2:30. If you're familiar at all with the area, this is near Manchester Avenue and Figueroa Street. You can see that crime scene tape. It looks like it might center around that 7 Market, as you can see from the sign, maybe even the donuts or the nail shop. It's hard to tell. It looks like a multi-retailer center. But you've got the crime scene tape there in the parking lot, and it looks like multiple authorities still on scene investigating. Not a lot of information on the victims themselves, but we can tell you they have a range of conditions. You have at least one or more people who could be in fair condition, but somebody or multiple people who are potentially as serious as critical condition. No arrests reported quite yet. So that is an information or a situation that we're following right now, trying to get more information for you out of the Vermont Knolls area of South LA. Once again, 5 people shot. One person, sadly, has passed away. We'll break in with more updates on that story. Meantime, we've got some breaking news to share for folks. I guess kind of on the consumer front, but it's certainly stirring a lot of chatter and conversation. We reported recently here on WCNC Plus, really just this week, how Cracker Barrel was changing up its logo, much to the chagrin of some, maybe the delight of others. But we did recently hear the president himself weighing in, saying, perhaps Cracker Barrel should stick with its old logo. Well, we're learning here that apparently Cracker Barrel will listen to the multiple opinions that are saying stick with the old logo. So there you can see social media posts saying essentially, quote, "We thank our guests for sharing your voices and love for Cracker Barrel. We said we would listen and we have. Our new logo is going away. Our old timer will remain." So the old timer is the one that folks are probably familiar with the gentleman sitting next to the barrel. The statement goes on to say at Cracker Barrel, it's always been and always will be about serving up delicious food, warm welcomes, and the kind of country hospitality that feels like family. We told you before the new logo that they were supposed to go with essentially got rid of the man and the barrel they kept the colors of the gold and the brown, but it kind of gave them more of a modern font, if you will, for that Cracker Barrel wording. But there you can see, they're sticking with the old one. All right, folks, let's turn now to some local headlines we're following here. We've got a couple of stories that we've been keeping an eye on, including that terrible story that spawned from over the weekend, that young woman who was killed. She was stabbed to death on a Charlotte rail train. So they've got now city leaders talking about this, talking about how could this happen, demanding answers too. We've got some reporting here talking about the very latest from our Julie Kay. Oh, okay. So there you can see some of the scene. We'll go ahead and show that to you now. Essentially, we had Charlotte City Council, which you might remember, we actually brought this to you, some of this live here on Live Impact News around this time yesterday. They were having their normal city council meeting, but this came up. 23-year-old Irina Zarutska stabbed to death Friday night on the Lynx Blue Line train in South End. She actually recently fled Ukraine. She came to Charlotte. She was trying to find a new beginning here. And so now we've got this discussion about safety. City council members last night brought it up, asking, how could this happen? Some saying, I've heard from constituents saying they're afraid to ride the public buses, they fear violence, and what can they do to make sure that riders and operators of these, transit modes are staying safe? So we'll have more on that to come, of course. We're also keeping an eye on the very latest with Helene. We've got some recovery efforts that we're getting some great updates on. Of course, still some more work to be done. Here's our Miles Harris from Blowing Rock talking about the effort to reconnect communities.
Challenging. After months of reconstruction, a temporary access road for Chimney Rock is complete, restoring connection beyond the area.
But our goal here is to maintain and make sure that the locals that live here can have continued use of the temporary roadway.
The department says it can now focus on the next phase for the $250 million project.
We're working towards permanent designs for the roadway. Again, we're standing on what was the old roadway and what will be the permanent again. The alignment of the permanent roadway will basically be the same as it was prior to the storm.
Work on the permanent roadway is expected to begin at the end of this year, and residents in Western North Carolina say they appreciate the work that's been done and look forward to the completed project.
When we first got down here, it was 6 days after the storm, because every which way we tried, part of the road was just gone. So we've seen it from, 6 days after the storm, and compared to what it looks like now, it looks great.
And at 6 o'clock, we'll share more with you on NCDOT's progress on these roadways and how they're bringing normalcy to this community. In Chimney Rock, I'm Miles Harris, WCNC Charlotte.
And of course, you can also find Miles's 6 o'clock reporting as well on our website, WCNC.com. Keep in mind, we'll keep looking at how things are bouncing back in the high country and what you need to know about the conditions up there. We've got to go back now closer to our Piedmont area, talk about a big name for Charlotte in general, motorsports in general. Legendary NASCAR promoter Humpy Wheeler laid to rest today. Friends and family, loved ones were joining together earlier today at St. Gabriel Catholic Church in South Charlotte to say their final goodbyes. So let's listen in as our Bria Smith details some of the commentary folks are saying today about his legacy.
Born Howard Augustine Wheeler Jr., Humpy quickly gained a name for himself through his talents and impacts on and off the track.
My dad and them called Humpy and they said, okay, you're a big time promoter here. You're wanting something magic. We're going to let Kyle run his first cup race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And Humpy said, yeah, that'd be great, man, that'd be great.
Tuesday, the inspiration was recognized for who he was and the legacy he left behind.
They say weddings and funerals are the time when everybody gets back together. It's like a family reunion, and to some respect, it really felt like a family reunion of a lot of longtime friends, and it feels like a life that we can celebrate because Humpy lived such a full life and made such a great positive impact on so many of us.
An impact and legacy CEO of the Charlotte Motor Speedway, Marcus Smith, knows will live on.
He and my dad working together were an amazing dynamic duo who I think were better together than they would have ever been apart. And I think that's there's something special about that relationship that made amazing things happen.
Okay, folks, with that, we want to turn to a live feed that we are taking right now from Texas, where we've got SpaceX attempting yet another launch for its Starship. You can remember we actually had some coverage of this last night around this time. Fortunately, that launch got scrubbed because of concerns with weather. It had been scrubbed the day before for issues regarding the ground systems. And now we're T-minus a minute and a half potentially, but it sounds like things might be a little bit dicey. Do we have any audio, Jeb? Let's listen in for just a little bit.
Looks like we're getting a quick TVC, that wiggle check.
It's my favorite view of the rocket.
Right under the launch mount. All right, so we've got crowds gathered out at Hawthorne, crowds gathered here at Starbase.
Super fun to see people getting to watch out on the front lawn now.
1 minute to go to launch. All right, so again, our hold point comes up at T-minus 40, not tracking any reason to stop there, so we should see us go right through that. All right, we are through T-minus 40. We are counting down. We're going to let our flight director, Maciek Batura, take us the rest of the way. 30 seconds, the 10th liftoff of Starship.
T-minus 15. T-minus 10. 9. 8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. We have liftoff.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Booster chamber pressure nominal.
All right, we're a little over 40 seconds into flight. 33 out of 33 Raptor
avionics
engines.
power and telemetry nominal.
Getting good call outs, healthy systems on the booster as it starts to pitch over the Gulf. All right, we're a little over 1 minute into flight, about to pass through Max Q.
Max Q.
All right, so we are through the period of maximum dynamic pressure, max stress on the vehicle as it continues to fly.
Our next major event is going to be hot staging, which is happening in just over 90 seconds from now. To get ready, the booster will shut down all but 3 of its Raptor engines. The clamps holding the 2 stages together will release, and the Starship second stage ignites its engines. The ship then separates from the Super Heavy booster and heads to space. At the same time, the 3 engines still firing on Super Heavy will flip the booster around. 10 more engines will ignite for the boost back burn, putting the first stage on the path for splashdown in the Gulf. As we mentioned earlier, the hot stage will be jettisoned for this flight, and that should occur just after the boost back burn. So we're about to shut down the first stage and perform hot staging. So let's just watch and listen.
All right, seeing the engine start to throttle down.
MECO. Ship ignition. Boost back burn startup. Stage separation.
Stage separation confirmed. We've got 6 engines running on ship. Booster is doing its boost back burn, continuing now towards its splashdown site in the Gulf.
Ship
We are
Raptor
seeing
chamber
all 6
pressure is
Raptors
nominal.
lit up on ship. You heard them report ship chamber pressure is nominal, so that chamber pressure, just that expected thrust level in those Raptor engines on the ship. 3 vacuum optimized, 3 sea
avionics,
level,
power and
all
telemetry
looking
nominal.
good.
Okay, so far, what seems to be a successful launch of the SpaceX Starship following a couple of days prior of complications that had that launch scrubbed. Keep in mind, we'll just be watching this in the background even as we pivot away in just a few moments. You just never know what will happen. And we know that some of these test launches have been mired with explosions at different degrees in the launch. So even as we're moving away, we'll keep an eye in the background here on Live Impact News. We'll come back if we see anything big and breaking on that front. Meantime, we want to come back here to the Carolinas, talk about a big initiative right now to give an economic boost to our rural communities. We've got our Tradisha Woodard joining us tonight. So there's grants to be talked about here, and also this is a push, as we kind of mentioned here, to boost our rural counties. Tell us about this.
That's right. So the state has set aside nearly $2 million, and the goal is to target rural counties or counties that are struggling economically. So what they're doing is they're taking some of the vacant buildings or some of the eyesores, and they're moving businesses into those facilities in hopes of bringing jobs and more money to the area.
Very interesting. Do you know, are these pre-existing businesses or businesses that are like thinking of getting off the ground but just don't have anywhere to go?
Yeah, so specifically in Gaston County, it's going to be a meat shop. No, Anson County, there's going to be a meat shop that's moved from Stanley County and is now going to be moved to the Anson. I don't know why I want to put it in Gaston. It's going to be moved to the Anson County area. It's a local homemade business, and that's going to be moving to the Anson County area. And then there's a U.S. global manufacturing company. A second location is going to be opening for the very first time in Gaston County, which is a really big deal. It's supposed to bring lots of jobs and millions of dollars back to Gaston County.
So interesting, almost like they're trying to spread out all of the potential economic impacts, if possible, to multiple counties versus just keeping them concentrated in one spot.
For sure. And it's a pretty big deal. I was speaking with Anson County's manager who says, a lot of the rural counties, they're not growing as efficiently as a lot of the other surrounding Charlotte area counties. So this is a pretty big deal. They're super excited, and they're hoping that this will push future development moving forward. Maybe if we can bring dozens of jobs, maybe we can get a new development coming so folks can have somewhere to stay, and it can just have a big impact for years and years to come.
I suspect too, with the potential of these jobs, there's probably an argument that, some advocates are making about, bringing folks, even more people living to these counties, potentially adding to the tax base and boosting government resources too, possibly.
Yeah, and a lot of folks are saying, okay, along with the additional folks and, taxes, they're also saying, let's not forget about the infrastructure, right? Let's make sure we're bringing these folks into some good roads and, there's enough space for everybody. So most of the feedback I've heard today, people are very excited about this opportunity, but also wanting to make sure that it's done efficiently and there's a lot of room, comfortable space, infrastructure for folks that could potentially be moving into the area.
So you're putting all this together for us at 11. Who will be hearing from?
So you'll be hearing from some residents from Gaston County. You'll also be hearing from Anson County's manager, who's super excited. He was also one of the people to sponsor this grant and help it move forward. So he's going to talk a little bit about the impacts this is going to have on folks living in the area.
Very interesting. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for your reporting later tonight. Thank you so much, Tradisha, for joining us here on Live Impact News.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We love to have you. Folks, we got another package, another report, if you will, that's going to be coming up at 11, and that will be the very latest on this Statesville discussion about a data center there. We actually are monitoring the meeting live. Our Walker Lawson, by the way, is also monitoring this meeting, but we want to take you there right now because they are at this very moment discussing this data center.
Now, but also with that being said, my lovely wife here, 4 years, moved down here from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Actually, Coon Rapids, a suburbs outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. She specifically chose this area, and guess where her house is? The Light Loop next to the airport. It's a country setting with the airplanes. Now, with the airplanes being said, Old Mountain Road, we are right there in the flight pattern. Planes, country setting, cows. Not buildings, not big buildings. It's just uncalled for. But I heard, I've got so much to say, and obviously that's like an uneducated hiccup here, and I'm not going to apologize for that because I'm speaking from emotion because I had no intentions of speaking tonight. If you're going to build it, don't build it there. Expand back this way or use the properties you have in the city that are vacant now. You have the infrastructure here, the sewer, the power. Do it in the city limits where you already have all those resources. Don't mess up my front yard. Don't make my house be a cheap piece of crap. And don't rip my child's child's childhood away. It's not right. Thank you for your time. You're going to make your own decision. I'm sorry again. This is from emotion. Put it somewhere where you have the resources.
Thank you. Did we have Pamela Locke? Okay. Jeff Byers? All right. Come on up, Jeff, and just make sure you state your name, address, if you're a city resident, and if you're an adjoining property owner.
My name's Jeff Byers. I'm 64. I've been a lifelong resident of West Iredale, and no, I chose never to live in the city limits. I live on Bethlehem Road, which is across from Stamey Farm, and I'm old enough to remember 2/3 of my life that it wasn't Stamey Farm Road, it was Fry Gilbert Road, until donations and political parties got the name changed. I digress. I've moved 7 times in my life, 7 times, and never have left West Iredale. This is very upsetting to me. The day, the first meeting is when the signs went up. I can't fathom that. But I'm gonna step on some toes. And I want the crowd to know this. Number one, I don't trust anything a developer tells me. I don't trust what politicians tell me. And I'm gonna tell you why. The airport expanded, and we were given this pie in the sky. Our road connected from Hickory Highway over to to Old Mountain Road, and we were told we're gonna open it back up. We're gonna do that. How many years ago was that? The city council come out and said, "This is what we're gonna do." City council still hasn't done anything. The last meeting I attended, I was told how great the airport's doing, how much revenue's coming in. Oh, by the way, we don't have money to expand the road. So don't hand me this pie in the sky crap. And I guarantee you, I heard it said earlier, not a single one of y'all live in the vicinity where this is going to happen, or you wouldn't want it. I'll promise you that. I know that I don't even have to ask that question. But the thing about it is, like I said, I've moved 7 times in West Iredale. Yes, I live right there at the airport, but you know what? I chose that. I'm not choosing this. I think it's a crying shame. Number one, I've heard it's already been approved for 500 homes to go in over on Gilbert Road that used not to be Gilbert Road. And now this, I'm not buying it for 1 minute. This is corrupt from day one. I know how the Stameys did with the political parties. I know the fundraisers they had. So that tells me all I need to know, that money was under the table. This is probably a done deal. And the council's probably laughing at every resident that's coming up here. That's okay. Where's my Bethlehem Road? Why is it not completed? You can't trust anything a politician says. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Byers. Dale Warren.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dale Warren. I live at 144 Greenwich. I own the farm that's along with my brother at 453 Bethlehem. We have approximately a mile of back creek that runs through our farm. that we solely rely on for water for our cows. Just a few weeks ago, runoff from the Stamey farm poisoned the creek, killed all the fish, cows wouldn't drink, had a lot of problems. I ended up having to notify Parks and Wildlife. They didn't respond. Finally got them out. 2 days later, we got North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality out there. First thing they said came from Stamey. It did. It came from Stamey Farms. I am not adjacent to the farm, but my creek runs through it. Now, you can say it's not my creek, it's the state of North Carolina's, but it is my creek. We maintain it, we clean it up. I've taken multiple trash out of it. It is my creek. The other thing that I kind of enjoyed not going first, because I didn't get to repeat what everybody else said multiple times, but I did listen to the presentation, appreciate it, it's nice and sweet. One thing that never does happen, oh, by the way, not only am I a small cattle farmer, I'm an engineering and maintenance manager at a refinery. Just spent 45 years in Texas. My goal was to move back to North Carolina, come back to Statesville. I don't call Statesville my home no more. Maybe, but not right now. I'm in the Shiloh. Spent my life savings. My farm wasn't handed down to me. I earned every bit of it. I paid for every bit of it. I paid for every cow that's on that place. I paid for all the feed. I paid for the water, everything else that goes in that place. I have spent my life savings. So I'm not going to go down without a fight. The data center, I just need some questions answered. One, you said it's a hybrid, but you said no water. So we know that's a lie. You can't have hybrid and not have water. The other thing that was failed to mention was, if we have a spill into Back Creek, how are we going to control it? Back Creek runs down, goes past through the city of Statesville's property at the airport, goes down to Raymer Lake, and then ends up in Third Creek. Long ways. We had dead fish, thousands of dead fish, using environmentally safe, disinfected, milk byproducts, just milk byproducts, which is also a hazmat material, spilled into the creek. The developer mentioned that we're going to use a environmental friendly vegetation. Stamey was fertilizing 300 acres of soybeans. How much more vegetation can you get as a filter? How much more can you do it? Also heard, so the other thing about we build the best, hey, I'm in the business. We go out for bids. We get what we want at the lowest price. If we want a Cadillac and a Volkswagen will get us there, that's what's going to be bought. So don't believe that. I appreciate your time, but the other thing is...
Thank you, sir. We have to go to the next person. I'm sorry.
Previous suits used the word we.
I'm sorry, sir. We have to go to the next person. Okay. Renee Morin. Renee. All right, if you'll come up and state your name and address, and if you're a city resident and adjoining property owner.
My name is Renee Moran. I don't really want to state my address, but I'm within a 5-mile radius for security reasons, and I'm not adjacent to the property, and I do not live in the city. I didn't want to be up here today to talk because I wasn't prepared, but I was waiting for somebody to mention what my concern is, and nobody mentioned it. My concern is I recycle, and my research is these facilities last 30 years. Y'all said the roof lasts 40 years. So what happens when it's obsolete or it's not functional anymore? What happens to the waste? Are we going to fill our landfills here in Outer County? So that was one of my concerns. But I was supporting it. I was not supporting it. And right now I'm on the fence because I've had some good ideas, and I think we need to go forward with a lot of this technology. My son is an AI. He created an AI company. But I need more research, too, for me to get off the fence. So that's what I would appreciate, maybe to find out what they're planning on doing it after it's obsolete. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And that was the last person we had sign up to speak at the public hearing. So with that being said, our public hearing is going to close. Do y'all have any? We're good.
Yeah. Any discussion amongst us? Anything we need clarified?
A lot's been said. Lots been said. But looking at it, looking at the plan, looking at things, knowing where the property is, when Interstate 40 went by the property in the 50s, I think it was, you know, it changed it from a farm to potential industrial expansion. I do know this, that the property will be sold somewhere, sometime. We've said that more than once tonight. And as far as a neighbor, a good neighbor, here you have something that in 1.3 million square feet of land, that's a lot of. Get closer? Okay, sorry. That's a lot of land, and I'm not sure why they picked it, but I do know that farm has been for sale on the open market for at least 3 years, maybe longer. And we've been through a lot of things here with development. Development is tough. Development is tough. There's no two ways about it. And I sat on the Iredell County Planning Board for 8 years back when I was a contractor and realtor in Statesville. I stayed in Statesville to be a realtor, and have had several different careers in town. But this, in looking at it, we're talking $1 billion potential asset. And people, I just got my tax bill, and the impact to the community, it does use closed loop water system. As an engineer, I worked on a closed loop system in Rubbermaid 50 years ago, where you bring the water in and you close it up and you have some kind of heat exchanger, which they're using air as opposed to water for their heat exchange. Just like your air conditioner outside your house, the condensing coil, it's got a fan blowing the air through it, and that's what makes it all work. And instead of a housing project or a factory, we have lots of land that's being built with warehouse space that's going to take trucks. The city has put off using trucks. I remember Consolidated Freight. This was 30 years ago or more. Wanted to do it, and they wouldn't do it because of truck traffic and stuff like that. But this has low impact. No matter what you do, if you put 600 houses out there, where's the fire department for that? I don't know. Where's the schools for 600 houses? Here we're talking 200 people. 200 people is a lot of people, but yet it's relatively high technical people that are going to work there, so they're going to get paid better. To me, this checks all the boxes. It's low impact. Excuse me?
Continue.
To me, it checks all the boxes. It's low impact on what it's going to use. Duke Power is going to provide the power. Sewer line is out there. That's been pretty much worked out in the past. And here you got 200 people, and that's it on a community. Trucks coming in and out. Those people coming to work. So I understand that. And I've seen it when I was on the Iredell County Planning Board too. It's tough. Change is tough. But I think it checks most of the boxes of what the community and what the plans that we have here, that we identify, the long-range plans, mobility plan, et cetera, that it meets that. But with that, I would move that we move this forward.
You can listen to anybody on their own time.
If anyone had something to say, they were able to sign up during the public comments. Yeah, for 3 minutes. Yes, for 3 minutes. Ma'am. Would you like to continue making your motion? This is a volunteer committee.
Because it checks so many boxes off of what the city.
Okay, ma'am, can you please exit, please? Can you? Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chairman.
All right, if you would like to exit, please exit. We're going to continue. Go ahead, Joel.
I believe,
You're talking to the chairman?
I believe that we were in the process of making a motion.
Yes.
And
let's hold it.
This can clear up.
I would like to see any one of you move within 5 miles of there and still vote for this.
Look up King.
You're all wrong.
Look up Kingbird and Rocky Point.
Please exit.
Great project.
Thank you. Thank you to the City of Statesville Police Department.
I believe we were in a process of making a motion. I do appreciate all the input we've had. And I will have to say personally that at the beginning it was a difficult decision even for me to make. And I know that my motion will not be the popular one. I will not be a popular one with most of the people here. But I feel that this year.
Folks, we know some of you might have gotten a notification on your WCNC Charlotte mobile app that we were set to speak with Lake Norman Humane Society. We still have that conversation coming up. This is getting pretty heated. We want to make sure we don't miss anything with this live feed, so bear with us. We will get to the Humane Society, though.
A lot of opposition to a cell tower being anywhere near anybody else until most people ended up with cell phones. And then it was no longer a major issue because it was something that was needed and was beneficial to the future. And I believe that that's what this is. I don't understand all of it, but I believe that it is part of what our future is going to be. And if it's going to be part of what our future is going to be, I really don't think that we should turn down an opportunity for that future to be in Statesville in Iredell County. So I'll be glad to second your motion, or I'll be glad to make it, whichever one you want.
Let me make it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I move we approve the ZC 25-13 Compass Data Center. The zoning amendment is approved and is consistent with the city's comprehensive land use plan, is reasonable and in the public interest because the 2019 Mobility Development Plan projects 2 land use plan options for the airport I-40 focus area regarding these properties. Concept A projects half of the properties for mixed-use neighborhood and half for manufacturing logistics. Concept B projects all of these properties for manufacturing/logistics. A data center is neither strictly manufacturing or strictly logistics. It is both because it produces information or data and manages the flow of equipment, power, cooling, and data within the facility. When the 2045 land development plan was adopted, afterwards the mobility plan was taken into consideration, and this area was projected as activity center or employment center / industrial flex, Employment Center Flex. Industrial includes business parks, corporate campuses, flex space, manufacturing, distribution, and in other industrial uses. Secondary uses include retail. In addition, these properties are located in the Tier 2 growth area. Utilities are currently available or are in the planning stages. In addition to the adopted plans referenced above, the concept plan and conditions offered by the applicant provide large buffers and an expanse of undeveloped land between the proposed structures and adjoining properties. The primary entrance is in close proximity to I-40, and the interchange and the data center is a less intensive use regarding traffic than a distribution center or retail development.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, none. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next up on our agenda, item number 5 is going to be ZC 25-04. We're going to stop for a minute and let anyone who wants to leave.
Did he recommend it?
They did. I know you are. It's good to see you, brother.
You doing all right?
Making it.
Yeah.
Making it. How's your shop?
Well, my house is trees.
So you heard it there, folks, just moments ago. Statesville Planning Board seemingly here just moving along this new data center slated for Stamey Farm Road. It would build 5 warehouse-style buildings, housing servers, as well as computer equipment. Received a bit of backlash, as we heard, with that public comment section regarding this plan. It is notable, though, we should note that while we've been talking a lot seemingly about data centers here in our area, this is a different project than the one that was scrapped in Mooresville after similar backlash there. Keep it here, WCNC Plus at 11. Our Walker Lawson has been keeping an eye on this meeting. He'll have a look at what's to come with the project and how the community is going to be reacting here. With that, we want to turn to our promised segment. That's our sit down with Lake Norman Humane Society as we continue our Clear the Shelters discussion. Of course, this campaign underway through August. Let's take a listen.
We have Abby, Taylor, and Wendy joining us with Lake Norman Humane Society. Of course, we're still in the midst of Clear the Shelters. And I hope so far this month, it's been an incredible month for adoptions or just at the very least awareness, donations, interest in the cause. How's it been going so far this month?
It's been going good. So this Friday, we had a lot of people, or this Saturday, sorry, we had a ton of people coming in for our special that we were running for Clear the Shelter. So it's $100 for adult dogs, 7 months plus, and adult cats, 7 months plus. And so there were a ton of people that came in Saturday specifically because they heard about Clear the Shelter.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an important campaign. Obviously, we've been partnering with local rescues and shelters for the last several years, trying to highlight the importance of adoption and fostering, even just volunteering, donating, and advocating. How is this, how is the season going for you? I know that summer is typically a busy time of year for our rescues and shelters. What has it been like this year?
I would say that this year adoptions have been definitely down from where they've been the last few years. I know that's not just a problem that we've seen, but that's a problem across the entire animal welfare community. But we're trying to focus on the good and celebrating the adoptions that we do have, especially this week. It's definitely a week to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, I know it can be kind of a grind, a grueling circle, if you will, to be in and work that is, it can be taxing in a lot of ways, but really exciting to hear that y'all have had some adoptions and hopefully that does continue. I have a couple of dogs and a cat that y'all have shared with me ahead of time that you would like to profile, just to remind folks that your adoptions do continue, even though, the big adoption day has passed. The need for adoptions has not let up. So first up, we have Dorothy that you all would like to talk about. So it looks like Dorothy is a brindle hound mix who is 5. What can you tell us about Dorothy's personality?
Dorothy is the best girl ever. She is the smartest dog I would say we have in our care right now. She's incredibly well trained. She has a little bit of shyness at first with new people, but warms up really quickly. And once she knows you, she is the absolute best dog you could ever meet. And she's very loyal and friendly and overall just a really good girl.
That's great.
And she just went into foster this week, so we're super excited to learn more information about her and how she does in the home to provide that to a potential adopter.
Yeah, I was going to ask, sometimes y'all are able to get notes about how the dog does with other dogs or does with cats or kids in the house. So that's really great to hear that y'all might be getting even more notes on Dorothy in the coming days. Next up, we have Locke. Locke is the brown and white mix, you say, who's 2 years old. What is Locke's personality like?
Locke is very derpy is what I would call him. He's very athletic, very smart, also very cuddly. He would be a good one that if for someone who exercises a lot or wants to go hiking. He is really cuddly when he wants to be. His favorite person here at the shelter is his trainer, Pete. He comes in and works with him all the time. Locke also really loves water. He went to the lake with Pete, waded around a little bit. I think Pete said that he would eventually want to go swimming if he could. And we call Locke giraffe and llama around here because when you look at his picture, he has an incredibly long neck.
Oh, wow. Oh, my. Well, we have a coonhound mix up next. 2 years old, Diggy. What is Diggy like?
Diggy, I would call your typical hound dog. He definitely, I would say, would benefit most from going with an experienced hound owner. Hound people are very specific. They love the howling. They love the energetic behavior. He really loves to spend time outside. He's also a really loving dog, also super intelligent. He's been through our training program as well. He really likes to go on walks, go on adventures. He likes toys, and he's done well with other dogs as well.
He's also spent time in 2 different foster homes, and he did really well outside of the rescue. He got along with the families, and yeah, he likes to be outside.
Yes, he's definitely an outdoors kind of guy.
Yeah, right in line with the hound. My first dog was actually a beagle, so somewhat familiar with they have a very distinctive bark, and I can say, at least for mine, when I was growing up, a little mischievous if you didn't give him something to do. That's
what we say. Hounds definitely need to keep their brain busy or they will find something to do.
Oh yeah. All right, well, we don't want to forget the cats. And so y'all have a 2-year-old named Momo. I love that name.
Momo is probably I would call our mascot right now. She actually in the office space we're in currently will come out and hang out with our staff sometimes. She's the definition of a lap cat, loves to cuddle up and, get all of the attention. I would say she has a big personality. She's very well known amongst our staff and volunteers. She has a lot of friends, loves streets, loves toys. She would prefer to be the only pet in the house. She's the queen, so she wants to rule the house, but she's a super, super sweet girl and would make a really good pet for somebody who's just looking for somebody to follow them around the house all day.
That's great. So for folks who are interested in any of these pets, or maybe even just want to see other pets that you have in your care, how can they find out more information?
Yeah. All of our animals are up on our website, so like normanhumane.org. So they can go there and it is updated in real time. So as soon as an animal gets adopted, it is taken off of our website. We have nice little bios, a lot of awesome photos and some videos on there that they can see for them as well. You can also always stop by. We are open Tuesday through Friday, 12 to 6, and Saturdays, 12 to 4. We love to see smiling faces to introduce our new kids too. And also our social media is at LKNH, LKN Humane. And we have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the things.
Yeah, and I guess I was, curious to hear more about, if you have any volunteer opportunities or ways that folks can get involved as a foster. I know myself personally, I got involved a couple years back in animal rescue and shelter volunteering because of Clear the Shelters. So I hope that folks might, maybe if they don't have room in the house or if they're not quite ready yet for a pet, maybe still consider volunteering.
Yes, please sign up. Come in for orientation. We do orientations twice a month for volunteers. And if you can't really volunteer in the building, then we always need foster families, always looking for people to join our team. We have a great group of core fosters right now, but we're always going to need more. So the more people that will take animals into their home, the more we can bring into the rescue. We can save twice as many.
And even if you're too far to volunteer or foster with us, there's a lot of great shelters and rescues across North Carolina who would love to have you.
Yeah. And the thing that I found as well, it's a pretty, I don't want to say tight-knit community, but it feels like a lot of folks know each other and work together. So I see a lot of cooperation between shelters and rescues and, you know, between rescues and rescues. And so I think it's all about the animals and however folks can help out. Usually that's benefiting to the community overall.
Definitely a community that runs on teamwork, for sure. We definitely would not be able to do what we do without the help of other rescues and volunteers, fosters, other shelters, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of alluded to this before, the fact that it can be a grueling line of volunteering or work to be in, animal welfare and animal rescue. I imagine y'all, you know, see all sorts of things, you know, in the work that you do. It's got to be worth it though, right? Do you have any just great stories that you'd like to share with our viewers just about, you know, why this is such an important cause to you and why you hope more people take part in helping?
I think as intake coordinator, since I'm going out and bringing animals back, the coolest part for me is watching them walk into the door either very scared, very stressed. We have animals from all different backgrounds, and then kind of seeing them progress through the shelter system all the way up until adoption is a really, I think, beautiful process to watch them, you know, grow and come into themselves and their, you know, new fresh start.
For foster families, I know sometimes people are worried about getting too attached. I'm one of them. But, you know, you're always helping this animal. And we do have a lot of foster fails where they are adopted by their foster parents. But many times it's just people wanting to help. And they know every time they take one in, it finds a family, they can do it again. So for me, it's just really cool to see where the animals end up. We're so lucky with our people that we have helping us.
Yeah, like they said, being able to see the transformation of these dogs from start to finish. We've had dogs come in emaciated, super skinny, and scared, and being able to be there for them, provide them the care that they need, even seeing our volunteers interact with them and see these dogs come out of their shell, get healthy, and then go on to live amazing lives with our adopters. It is super rewarding.
I think one of the coolest specific cases we've had in the last few years is we had a dog in a wheelchair named Danny. We had Danny for probably over a year. And she was a super awesome dog. She ended up finding a home, and she goes to water therapy every week and gets to walk around in her wheelchair. And she has a canine brother as well. So we've definitely had a lot of really amazing stories come through here. And it's definitely cool to see the way that lives are changed.
Did y'all get Danny from Lincoln County?
We did, yes.
Did you know her?
We talked to Hat, Helping Animals to Survive, over in Lincoln County a couple weeks back, and they sent us pictures of Danny and talked about Danny's story, and they said that she went to rescue. And so I didn't realize that y'all were the rescue.
Yes, she was awesome. Yeah. She was definitely a very big name in our building and was very loved and still is by a lot of our staff and volunteers.
And Hats was fantastic. They donated the wheelchair to go with her. They donated a little pool to help with her water therapy. So yeah, she's a great example of a team effort between Lincoln County, Hats, and ourselves.
And we even had a local place that does water therapy. It's called Warm Paws. They would donate to her care and do free sessions for her for, you know, water therapy. And that definitely benefited her recovery as well. So we definitely see the way that the community comes together to help animals that they've never even met. And it's really awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I'm kind of blown away. I mean, I just talked about how it was such a small world, but lo and behold, here we have it. And happy to report now, Danny got adopted and apparently is doing really well.
Yes.
Oh, I love to hear that. Anything that y'all would like to leave our viewers with before we wrap things up tonight?
There is every breed of animal, every kind of animal, anything that you could possibly think of, there is probably a rescue that has it. I think a lot of the time people think that if they're looking for a specific breed, they're going to have to buy it. But I would really urge you to please look online, look in shelters, because there are a lot of animals waiting for second chances.
Oh, yeah. Some really great animals, some fantastic animals. Ladies, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Once again, Lake Norman Humane Society. We'll have more information on our website if y'all would like to check out the adoptable pups we mentioned and more about Lake Norman Humane. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you too.
All right.
It was a really fun revelation, too, to learn about Danny. Kind of a full circle moment, if you will, here on Live Impact News, because I know some of you were probably watching here as we spoke with Lincoln County and heard about Danny's story from that perspective. And now we're able to bring you that update with Lake Norman Humane Society. We're turning now to a breaking situation that we've been following throughout the day over in the Minneapolis area. A search for a suspect who shot and killed one person and injured 6 others in an intersection. It happened in the middle of the day. Here's a briefing recently from police.
Gunman armed with a high-velocity .223 rifle opened fire on a group of people on the sidewalk on the block behind me, directly across the street from a Catholic high school. That gunman wound up killing 1 person and wounding 6 others that were standing on the sidewalk. This level of firepower unleashed in broad daylight is completely sickening and unacceptable. Obviously, the investigation is still in its preliminary stages, so the information that I have is subject to change. But what I can tell you is shortly before 1:30 this afternoon, Minneapolis police received a ShotSpotter notification that approximately 30 rounds of gunfire had been fired near the intersection of East 29th Street and Clinton Avenue. Police officers responded, finding 1 adult male who was deceased upon arrival. Additionally, there were 6 additional victims suffering from gunshot wounds, 5 males and 1 woman. These 6 victims were found at various locations in the area. 3 of those surviving victims were said to have critical and life-threatening injuries. However, I can tell you the most recent update I just received is that all 6 remaining victims are expected to survive. Our thoughts right now are obviously with the person who lost his life, with those who are trying to recover from their injuries, and with all those families and members of our community who have been affected. Thanks to the swift response from Minneapolis police officers, our investigators are pursuing strong leads at this time. We're thankful for the assistance that we've received from business and residents in the area. Our crime lab is here on the scene processing dozens of pieces of evidence that have been recovered, and we're doing everything we possibly can to identify those who are responsible for this violence. As your police department, we want all people in our community to know that we remain committed to doing everything we possibly can to reduce serious street crime while rebuilding trust with our residents. We will not stop until we can make every block in this city safe for all of our residents. But we cannot do that alone. Obviously, we need partners. So certainly we are asking anyone else in the community who may have information about what occurred here to please come forward, even anonymously, because together we can continue to try and make Minneapolis safer for all people in our community. And with that, I'll do the best I can to answer questions that you have. I believe all 7 victims are adults. I don't have their ages at this time. I think 1 or 2 may still be unidentified, but they're believed to be adults.
Where's the shooter?
The shooter fled the scene. We have substantial pieces of evidence that we are reviewing, and I feel confident that we will be able to identify this person. fled in a vehicle from the scene.
Chief, was this a random act, or can you tell us if this was intentional?
We believe, based on the manner that this shooting occurred, that at least one person standing in that group was clearly targeted. Yes.
Can you give a description of the vehicle?
We're not releasing that at this time.
Can you just describe this weapon at all more, whether this was automatic or what kind of a weapon this was?
From the shot spotter notification, we do not believe this to have been fully automatic. However, this was clearly a high velocity .223 rifle. And certainly it's obvious from the injuries that people suffered here, just the significant damage that those types of rounds can do to the human body. It's gross.
Can you talk about where this took place? This is next to it's a high school?
Yes.
Maybe a nonprofit?
So we were here just last week. This is the backside of Cristo del Rey. It's a Catholic high school. Last week we were here conducting our community ComStat meeting. We've been here several times, conducting different meetings and community engagements here. And obviously school was in session. It's a high school. Just thankfully, we spoke to some of the students here. They're fine. But it's obviously deeply, deeply troubling to have something like this happen right outside of a school.
Was this like summer school or something? I wasn't sure if school had started.
I'm not sure if it's the regular year for them, but there's high school students that were here, and that many of them are leaving now.
From what you've been able to gather, can you just explain these victims? Were they some kind of gathering? Were they live around here?
I don't have information to release on that at this time. This particular area, though, there's obviously people who hang out. And I think you could talk to residents that live around here. There's obviously people that hang out alongside of the highway there, 35, and some of the other blocks that are affected by that. So this just appeared to be people that were hanging out here on the sidewalk.
When you say the victims are found in various locations.
Yes.
Are we talking about where?
So there's one person that was killed that is deceased at the scene. At least one other victim, I believe, that was at the scene when police arrived. The remaining 5 people ran from the scene after being shot. So some of them had gone to inside of different businesses along Lake Street and were found by the police and the ambulance in the area here.
Chief, we've seen a number of vehicles with windows, obviously, that have been blown out here. Did a number of vehicles get hit too by stray gunfire?
There is damage to some of the vehicles that are parked in the area here, yes.
Are you all familiar with anybody involved?
I don't have information to release on that. Yep.
Can you confirm all the victims are at HCMC?
I believe they are all at HCMC. Yes, they're all at HCMC.
And the location of the shooting was down
on the corner. The shooter was at the corner of East 29th Street and Clinton Avenue, and the victims, we believe the victims were gathered on the sidewalk about 15 yards in from the corner.
Do you believe the shooter had help from anyone else?
I'm not going to speculate on that. I do believe there is just one shooter, though. Yep.
Was the shooter outside of the vehicle
yes.
when he fired?
The shooter was on foot when he fired.
Your thoughts?
It's deeply disturbing. Obviously, this is the middle of the day. We are standing literally right next to a high school, and this type of weapon, it's more for a weapon of war than something to be on the street here. I mean, just the damage that was done to the bodies of some of these victims is unspeakable. And thankfully, we don't have more people that are dead from this incident.
Can you speak to the number of shots that were fired here, and if that's something you expect to see in this type of...
We believe it's about 30 rounds. That's what the shot spotter detected. There's obviously numerous shell casings that are being collected. They're rifle .223 casings. But that's as much as I can say at this time. We don't believe it was automatic gunfire.
Can you confirm if the person who's dead is in fact the person that the shooter was potentially targeting?
No, we don't know that. We do not believe that this was a random act of violence. We believe that at least one of those individuals that was here was specifically targeted.
Is there any connection to any gang activity?
I cannot say that at this time.
And can you talk at all about did any businesses help with trying to assist any of the victims that went in there?
I'm sure they did. I just don't have that specific information. I believe I believe some of the victims wound up in some of the businesses directly behind us here. Yeah. There's numerous pieces of video evidence that are being retrieved and the investigators are going through now. Yes. Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As we get more on this story, we'll definitely pass it along to you here on Live Impact News. Meantime, you've probably been watching the SpaceX box. We're taking it down in preparation of taking it full, by the way. But the test launch seemingly going well for as much as we can tell. At this point, we're getting towards, I guess you might say, the conclusion of some of the flight here, where it sounds like they're in the process of bringing this down as a splashdown in the Indian Ocean. So we want just to rejoin now with that SpaceX launch coverage to see where things stand and how things are going.
There we go. There's that sunlight. So we're seeing the Earth now come back into view. One of the other things we're doing during this, and you're going to see Starship kind of pitch in some pretty, not extreme ways, but a little extreme, as we're trying to really stress the structure of the ship itself, specifically those aft flaps, so the ones in the very bottom of the vehicle. We're pushing not just how well does the heat shield hold up, but how well does the ship structure hold up. We are pushing it beyond essentially what we think we'll have to fly at to do something like a return to launch site. So again, may not be a very smooth ride downhill, but we're doing that by design. We're really trying to find what are the edges that we can operate at, build up a good data set. But sun is up, clouds and water down below us. We are just about 10 minutes away, a little less than 10 minutes now, until we start hitting transonic and then subsonic. Once we hit subsonic, we're basically just belly flopping. All right, so about 55.5 minutes in, you can see the sun is up. Again, we intentionally designed these flights to lift off in the evening here so we get these daylight views so we can get as good a video as possible on the ship, assuming we make it all the way down. We've got at least one buoy powered by Starlink that's out there in the landing zone in the Indian Ocean, hopefully giving us a view again. If you see any live views, not from the ship itself, that means we nailed our landing target.
Starship is past peak heating.
All right, we just heard the call out that we're past peak heating, so things are looking good so far.
Yeah, looking good. And at this point, again, the flaps are controlling, so this movement you're seeing is that forward flap moving to try and just maintain control, maintain attitude of the vehicle as we're coming down. Checking in on one of our flaps. We got one of these cameras on all four of the flaps, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, giving us really good close-up views as we're we obviously don't have a camera that can see the entire heat shield. These give us kind of the best that we can do. But looking at those flaps is really, those are just, super critical for controlling the ship. You have some ability to maneuver kind of cross range. So as you're coming in, you can see in that indicator at the very bottom right that we've pitched up quite a bit. So again, we are maximally stressing those aft flaps right now. Looks like we got a little bit of burn through the very bottom part of it. Everything's still looking good. Ship maintaining control. We should be just about 5 minutes away until we hear that we're transonic. Still a little bit toasty on the aft skirt of the vehicle as we continue coming in.
Again, we are intentionally stressing the flaps so we can learn all we can.
All right, so now we're already well past peak heating. Just about 48, 49, counting down to 48 kilometers in altitude. Expecting that transonic to come, so transitioning between the speed of sound and subsonic slower than the speed of sound in just a little under 4 minutes from now. And right now we've got kind of a lot of forward momentum, a lot of forward velocity, and then eventually by the time we hit subsonic. All right, here we go. So this is what we've been talking about, where we are going to essentially try to fully deploy those aft flaps and really stress them out. So again, this is meant to test the extremes for the vehicle. All right. See those flaps swinging out? Again, we're putting ship through the ringer on this flight in. It's like we're still maintaining control. All right, flaps earning their paycheck today, getting through kind of that max stressing.
Definitely things looking good so far. We're about 2 minutes out now from Starship becoming transonic.
One cool thing to note as we get some of those views showing kind of the whole length of the ship, one of the changes we made after Flight 6 was to change the tile line a little bit. So we had kind of scaled back the number of tiles significantly, as when we go to catch these ships, you don't want to, I think as Elon said, you don't want to shuck the ship as you catch it and knock all those tiles off. So we knew we were going to have to kind of peel back that layer a little bit. And the first time we did it was on Flight 6, and we saw kind of wrinkling and dimples almost in the ship as we were creating these hot spots in the uneven parts of the heat shield. And so kind of addressed that. We smoothed it out. That's why you've got kind of that nice smoothed out black line now on the ship. And just looking at it, we can see kind of a little bit of hot spot, a little bit of warping almost. Near the payload door, you can see a little bit of colored patina up above it, but we don't see those kind of deep, almost, you know, they almost look like gouges on that. So it looks like that's been pretty successful. So, all right, we are less than a minute away from hitting transonic. Again, pretty soon our forward velocity is going to look like it's kind of falling off a cliff, and Starship will look like it's falling off a cliff as we essentially go into our belly flop. If you watched some of the high altitude tests or suborbital campaigns, we were able to test that. It was a pretty fundamental, like, can this thing actually fly? And we were able to prove that out with that suborbital campaign, and that's what we're about to see shortly here. All right, so at this point, we've dropped below the speed of sound, so Starship itself is subsonic. We are starting to chill the engines for a landing burn attempt. Landing flip supposed to start in a little over 2 minutes. Subsonic Indian Ocean, we're on our way.
Starship is subsonic.
There we go. Farewell, space. All right, so coming up in just a little under 2 minutes, so we're going to do the flip and the burn. So we're only using those 3 center Raptor engines, the sea levels, the ones that can kind of gimbal, that can move around and steer. Dipping the nose down a little bit. Got 2 of our engines chilled in, waiting on 1 more. So again, we'll attempt to use 3 burns for that initial flip. We eventually go down to just 2 Raptors for the end of the landing burn.
Just about 1 minute now from that landing flip and landing burn start.
Structurally, we're looking good. Got good pressures in our nose cone for everything. Just about 30 seconds. So again, we're going to look for the flip. So Starship's doing its belly flop right now. We're going to do the flip. Swing out. Let's punch through some clouds first. Here we go.
Starship landing burn startup.
Seeing 3 engines. There's our flip. There's a buoy. There's a splashdown. Hey. Oh, man. Yeah. Farewell, Ship 37. Thank you, buoy cam. Landing flip, landing burn, splash out of the Indian Ocean. There we go. Whew. All right. That was pretty awesome.
Incredible flight
cool, right?
today for both ship and booster.
Yeah, really incredible. So obviously we're excited here. It looks like everybody's excited over there. Tyler, how's it going over in Hawthorne?
We are super excited here in Hawthorne. It was another exciting Starship flight test in the books, and we hope you enjoyed those Starlink views. So congratulations to the team at Starbase and everyone here and around the company. So many employees have contributed enormously to the Starship program as we continue to iterate and make progress towards a multi-planetary future. So that's going to wrap it up for us here in Hawthorne. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today. It was great being with you today. Back to you guys.
That was absolutely incredible. Huge congrats to all the teams here. Again, we lifted off from Starbase, Texas, right at the top of our window at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. We saw Booster successfully lift us up through ascent, had a successful hot staging where ship continued on with its suborbital trajectory. Booster came back down, had that boost back burn, and a successful landing burn with that unique engine configuration as well.
Yeah, and then ship continued on its way, made it all the way into space. We got to see first ever payload deploy.
So exciting.
That was awesome. We got the door open, 8 Starlink simulators deployed, relit that Raptor engine, and then on entry we probably gave it a little bit of extra time in the oven, but made it all the way through re-entry. All 3 engines started up, landing flip, splashdown in the Indian Ocean. Promised maximum excitement, Starship delivered.
Most
so
definitely.
Congratulations, all of our teammates here at SpaceX. It's been a year. Everybody that's worked on this program, this is what we're working for. So big congrats to all of them. Thank you to all of our future customers, too, for your support.
And we'd also like to thank the fine people of Cameron County, including the residents of its newest city, Starbase, as well as the Coast Guard, the Federal Aviation Administration, the Government of Mexico, and the Australian Space Agency.
Be sure to stay tuned to SpaceX on it.
All right, so there you see, successful SpaceX Starship test launch. We'll keep you updated on those efforts. We've got for you, meantime, development on the front of transportation, if you will. But essentially, we are seeing the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, announcing now that 3 Democrat-led states must enforce English language proficiency requirements for commercial drivers. This is at risk of potential federal funding cuts if they don't comply. Let's listen to this announcement from just a bit earlier today.
Where we had an individual who we tested this individual after the crash, but no doubt could not speak the English language and could not understand road signs when he was operating that very deadly rig. And so we at DOT and Federal Motor Carriers, we are not going to tolerate states that don't comply with the rules that come from this department. And so we are going to, first of all, we've identified several states that have not been in compliance. That would be Washington, California, and New Mexico. Those are the three states that have not complied with this rule, which, by the way, this driver in Florida had received a CDL in Washington, California, and was pulled over in July for speeding, and no doubt couldn't speak the English language. And law enforcement in New Mexico did not take his rig out of service. So this one driver touched all 3 states. Based on our review, they are not complying with our rule. And so phase 1 for us, which I'm announcing today, is we are going to give these states 30 days to come into compliance with truck drivers speaking proficiently the English language, or we're going to look at federal funding that they receive under the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program. So I believe California is 20 million or 30 million? 30 million. Washington is 10 million, and New Mexico is 7 million. Correct. Jesse will confirm that in a second, but these are millions of dollars. By the way, this is phase one. There are other actions that we can take to make sure states comply, and hopefully in the next 30 days we won't have to withhold any money from them, but if they don't come into compliance, we will start with withholding this money, and then we will take additional steps to guarantee compliance. And this is not, just to be clear, this is not just about saying we have some obscure rule that we want them to comply with, that truck drivers speak English proficiently. This is about keeping people safe on the road. Your families, your kids, your spouses, your loved ones, your friends, we all use the roadway. And we need to make sure that those who are driving big rigs, semis, can understand the road signs, that they've been well trained, and that when they're pulled over by law enforcement, they're stopped by law enforcement, or there's a crash and law enforcement responds, they can effectively communicate what they have on their rig. There might be a history that they have to be able to communicate to law enforcement when they're pulled over or there's an accident. And if they can't do that, that creates a significant issue for the traveling public. And so this is step one. And again, we hope there'll be compliance in the next 30 days. If not, we'll take additional steps. With that, I do want to turn it over to our Chief Counsel from Motor Carriers, Jesse Ellison, to talk a little more about what our plan is and how we're going to move forward. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Before I explain the enforcement actions that FMCSA will take, I want to emphasize the two dates that you mentioned. May 20th is the date that the Secretary directed FMCSA to implement a new policy, and part of that policy included the assessment to determine whether a driver could meet the English language proficiency requirement. And by June 25th, when CVSA, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, the alliance of the state partners, put the new out-of-service rule into effect, they shared that policy with the assessment as part of it with all of the state partners. And so all of the states have had this information since May 20th and at the latest since June 25th. Today, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration will be serving a notice of proposed determination of nonconformity to the states of California, Washington, and New Mexico. And this notice proposes a finding of noncompliance with the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program, commonly referred to as MCSAP, with the qualifying conditions. This notice, the MCSAP program is FMCSA's main formula grant program, and it provides financial assistance to states to reduce the number of severity of crashes and injuries and fatalities. MCSAP funding requires the states to adopt and enforce laws and regulations compatible with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, which includes the English language proficiency requirement. And let me just quote what that requirement is that the Secretary described just a minute ago. But commercial drivers must be able to read and speak the English language sufficiently to converse with the general public, to understand highway traffic signs and signals in the English language, to respond to official inquiries, and to make entries on reports and records. The states must enforce ELP requirements to maintain MCSAP funding. Even before the tragic accident in Florida, taking 3 lives, FMCSA reached out earlier this month to all of the state partners and asked a couple of questions. We were reviewing the enforcement data, and we wanted to know what your plan was, and if you did not have a plan, what actions you were taking to deprioritize your non-enforcement actions. And so we took that feedback and reviewed that in combination with the data that we were reviewing, and part of that data that I'll share with you right now. But those answers were critical in determining these notices to California, in Washington and New Mexico because they didn't have a plan or they hadn't communicated with us the steps that they would take to deprioritize what they weren't doing. What we found in determining California between the enforcement date of June 25th and August 21st, so through last week, was that California has done about 34 investigations where they actually cited a violation, and one of those involved the English language proficiency requirement. Very importantly, California inspected over 20 drivers who had previously been cited in other states for an English language proficiency violation and were taken out of service. So what that means is subsequent to that violation, they drove again in California, and California did not honor that previous violation. In Washington, there have been, over that time period from June 25th to August 21st, about just over 5,000 inspections that resulted in a violation, 6 of which did have the ELP requirement, 2 of which were not properly done within the commercial zones. But like California, Washington had at least 4 drivers come into their state who had previously been cited for an ELP requirement violation and put out of service, and they did not respect and honor that previous violation. In New Mexico, over that same time period from June 25th to August 21st, New Mexico has provided 0 violations out of over about 5,000 inspections. And like Washington and California, drivers came into New Mexico, about at least 7 drivers who had previously been cited and put out of service for the English language proficiency requirement, and yet New Mexico, just like Washington and California, did not honor that previous violation and returned them out of service. Just to underscore this point, if an out-of-service violation could be various citations, it could be breaks. No state officer is going to look at a previous citation of a break violation in a state a month before they're doing their inspection and then just not inspect the brakes and just let that driver go on their way. And yet, all 3 of these states are doing that, and they're allowing people to be on the road that were taken off the road. So all 3 of these states will have 30 days from the notice that we send out today to respond to the agency and to provide a corrective plan. And after that 30 days, FMCSA will make a final determination of nonconformity and impose the appropriate sanctions that can be up to withholding all of the MCSAP funding. And as the Secretary said, that's just over, I think, $33 million in California, $10.5 million in Washington, and I think $7 million in New Mexico. We anticipate all of the states coming in compliance. We do not want to penalize the states. We want the states to comply and to enforce the English language proficiency requirement, which is directly related not only to the safety of the citizens of their states, but the citizens of all of the states around all of the United States with drivers driving into those states. And that covers the notices.
Wonderful. Just as a quick note, we have so many great people who work here at DOT. Jesse and I have worked arm in arm for the last 7 months together. You haven't met Jesse yet. You met him today, but this is the hard work and the dedication that our team puts in to make sure our rules and regulations are appropriate to keep people safe. I just want to, I'll take your questions in a moment, but again, we have drivers that were taken out of service because of English language proficiency. They go to one of these 3 states and they're pulled over again. So their records are run by law enforcement. Of course, that's what law enforcement does. And so law enforcement in those states sees this is a flashing light. Listen, this driver was taken out of service in a different state because they couldn't speak English. And what do? Nothing. They turn them loose, put them back on the road. We've also asked for plans from these 3 states, to which they have not provided them, which has indicated to us that there has not been a willingness to comply with this rule. And so this is phase 1. We do want compliance. We don't want to take away money from states. But we will take money away, and we'll take additional steps that get progressively more difficult for these states. There's a lot of great tools that we have here that we don't want to use. We just want to keep drivers safe, not in just red states. Americans drive in all states. And California, Washington, and New Mexico, Americans drive in, and they deserve to be safe in those states like in every other state. So with that, I will take a couple of your questions. Yes?
I'm Covenant Charlie with Politico. In reference that this announcement is phase 1, what are issues that you would like to take to see this employed?
So this is the only phase I want to take. And we're giving 30 days for compliance because I don't want to take away their money. I don't. I want them to get these resources. But if not, this will be phase 1. I'm not going to lay out all of the phases that we have, tools that we have to garner compliance, but we have wonderful tools that will make it very challenging for states to do business if they don't comply.
And I have a follow-up. So 19 states in the District of Columbia currently don't consider immigration status when issuing commercial driver's licenses. Is DOT looking into ways to make those states consider immigration status when issuing commercial driver licenses, and if so, how?
So again, Jesse, you might have a different answer, or will supplement mine. We need congressional assistance on this, but of course, I do think we should be a U.S. citizen or be legally in this country if you're going to drive. We have a number of other issues that we deal with our partners to the north and to the south that we are trying to unpack and make sure our laws are complied with. As I've found out now very quickly from Jesse, this gets very complicated very quickly. But we are putting every asset in place to make sure that we get compliance and get anyone who drives in America to follow the law. Jesse, do you have a...
I would just add that the rules are very clear on what's required of issuing a CDL and a non-domiciled CDL. And those requirements are a very important part of the national audit that we're doing with the issuance of those licenses.
Yes.
Where are you at with the audits and what non-domiciled?
We're making progress, and we'll have some updates in the very near future. But we've done a number of states. We still have a lot of states to do, but we do, and we'll have an update in the very near future on that.
And then in some of my reporting, it's come to my attention that with the ELP that can only be enforced by CVSA inspectors. That in states like Wyoming, I was listening to a hearing last week. They're trying to pass a state law because state policemen or sheriffs can't pull someone over for violation of an ELP, and it's happening. They're going in different areas that aren't in their states. Is that correct? Is that your understanding as well?
No, that's not correct. Both the federal enforcement and the states can enforce ELP violations and do. What's really important is that the CVSA, or the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, they are the ones who set the standards for the North American out-of-service criteria. And that's why it was significant for them to start that date of enforcement on June 25th. And so,
you don't have to be a federal inspector and do an inspection to pull them off the road. It can be a sheriff.
Yeah, most of our partners are state and local partners that are performing the ELP assessments. And just real quick, the assessment actually only is triggered when there's a challenge to communicate. It's not something that's just always done. But if there's a challenge in communication, then there's this two-step assessment process that is part of the policy that we issued and that CVSA incorporated into their guidance.
And one last question. Okay, so the violations of the out-of-service orders that you mentioned in the 3 states. Do you know where those like non-domiciled, work visa CDLs or
So those issues are separate issues. I do have an idea of some of those issues, but those are separate, the CDL and the visa and immigration. And so that we are addressing those issues, and in the future we'll have more to say about those. But right now we're sending out notices limited to English language proficiency, the English language proficiency requirement and the nonconformity with that requirement.
Hi, Rebecca from the EPA. My first question is, what methods of standardization are used for the EOP assessments, and when was the methodology established?
Yeah, it's a great.
All right, folks, our time here on Live Impact is coming to a close just for tonight. As always, we encourage you to stick around for our next couple of hours of programming, including WCNC Charlotte News at 11. Have a great night.